Good day everyone, it is Caitlin and today we are making an 1830s wool petticoat. Hello and welcome. So we are going to make a petticoat. This is some brown wool stuff I got from Burnley and Trowbridge. I love their brown wool stuff, I really do. Well, their stuff in general I love. It's just so nice and light, and you can see how well it moves, and it's 100% wool. I have two dresses out of it, and I have a cloak out of the same brown stuff. But we're going to make a petticoat today. I need another wool petticoat. I have one nice wool petticoat, but I just kind of want another one. So we're going to make one today. Petticoats are usually pretty simple. It doesn't take very long, and they're very easy projects. So this shouldn't take too long, and I should get something pretty out of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure how long I need my petticoat. So of course generally you want your petticoats to be a little shorter than your skirt. So your first petticoat needs to be about mid-calf, and then they get a little bit lower each one because you don't want the one underneath to poke out or peep out of the hem of the one on top. So you want each one to be just a slight bit longer. And this is going to be a topmost petticoat, so right under the skirt. And so I want this to be 1 to 2 inches shorter than my normal skirt length. And I don't need to add any extra to fold over on the top like you would a skirt. You don't need to balance this in that way. You can, if you have a significant difference between your back and your front, then yeah, you're going to want to cut that, graduate it, and balance it that way, but you don't need to do any fold over. And I don't have a significant difference from my back to my front on my skirt length, so I don't even need to do that. I'm just going to leave it just the way it is. So this stuff is about 55 inches wide. I'm going to do about 2 widths of this fabric in my petticoat. I do want to add a substantial hem. I'm thinking about maybe a 3-inch hem, and with like that 1/2 inch turn under, so about 3.5 inch hem. So I'm just going to rip my panels. It's a straight weave fabric, so I can just rip it, and it rips it super straight. It saves me from cutting a little wonky, especially on this solid fabrics. It's very hard to tell if you're cutting wonky or not. But for most straight weave fabrics, it's going to work well. If you have a design in it, you want to make sure the design's printed straight. Otherwise, you're going to end up with something that looks wonky, even though it's not wonky. And after cutting, it's just going to be sewing the thing together. So we're going to take the selvages, pin them together. You don't even have to pin, really. I'm just going to put a few pins in here just to be on the safe side. Make sure to leave. I am going to make sure to leave a little bit of section open at one end. That's going to be my placket. Placket's just, of course, so you can open the skirt and get in and out of it. And my general rule of thumb is that you're going to take your hip width or your bust width. So if you put your petticoat on over top of your shoulders, you're going to need your shoulder width. If you pull it up from the bottom, you're going to want your hip width. Basically, the largest measurement of however you get dressed, whether it's from the top, you're going to take your shoulder width. If it's from the bottom, you're going to take your hip width. And add about 10 inches to that. So you're going to take your larger measurement, and you're going to take your waist measurement. And you're going to subtract. And you get a number. And you're going to add about 10 inches, 10 to 15 inches to that number. Divide that in half, and that's how long you need your placket. That's going to give you plenty of space so that you can get the petticoat or skirt on and off easily without ripping out your seams because it's too small, or without having an excessively long placket. So about 10 inches, and then of course you divide the whole number in half. And that's how you determine a placket. Now petticoats are super easy. They're just a running stitch. You do not have to back stitch this. It's not put under any stress, just running stitch. You want to make the running stitch pretty small, but nothing that's super difficult. If this is your first hand stitching project, I always recommend petticoats because they're so easy. no one sees them, so if you screw up, no one's ever gonna know, and it's still probably gonna get, and you're still probably gonna get something that's wearable. It would be very hard to mess up to where it would not be wearable. So I'm just going to make sure I run that on all the seams, of course leaving open the placket, just so, again, I need to be able to get this petticoat on. At the top, I'm going to run a gathering thread. This is just a loose running stitch, not super loose, but you know, a loose-ish running stitch. And you're supposed to do 2, and I'm lazy and I only do 1. The problem with this is if I were to snap a thread, I would have to redo all of my gathering, whereas if you did 2 threads, if one of them broke, you still have the other one to kind of take its place. So it does kind of save you some time, but I like to live on the wild side, so I only ever do 1. It usually works out for me. Now the waistband I cut is my waist measurement plus about 3 inches. Because I'm going to have an inch turnover on either side, so that's 2 inches, and then half an inch on either end to cover the raw edges, that's 3 inches. So my waist plus about 3 inches. And I'm going to turn in the ends, pin the middles together, and pull my gathering thread to make the petticoat match the waistband. Now this is going to be the most time consuming part of a petticoat project, and that is this does need to be back stitched. You can technically do a double running stitch, which is doing a very small running stitch and then going back on it, stitching in the ditch, so it looks like a regular machine stitch, a lock stitch, but that would be a double running stitch. It's not quite as secure as a back stitch would be, so always recommend the back stitch. It is going to take a little bit of time, but it's worth it and it's very secure. All right. Doing the button. This is just a a China button. And then we're going to do a buttonhole, and then we just have to hem it. Okay. I don't know at this particular point where my buttonhole scissors are, so we're going to do this with regular scissors, which is not ideal. Well, I should at least find my sharp scissors, though. Okay, found my buttonhole scissors, actually. And I think... that looks about right. Make sure the button's going to go through there. Yes, okay.
I just have a little bit of hemming left. I like making petticoats. It's very little work, and you feel like you've accomplished something. Alright. Suppose now it's just time to put it on and see how it looks.
Alrighty, petticoat. I love making petticoats. They're so simple and easy and require almost no skill. And no, I'm not wearing a corset today. I thought about putting the wraparound one on. I was like, why not? This still fits without it. I do the Tahana impression. Chemise, well, this is much more of a fancy chemise than I should be wearing for that. But, just make sure the placket's in the back where it should be. Yeah, like that. And there's our pretty little brown wool petticoat. So, I mean, I love this fabric so much. I love Burnley and Trowbridge's wool stuff. That's what this is. I love it. It's a very lightweight wool, but it doesn't feel scratchy. It's very soft and smooth. It feels like extant wools that I've handled. A little bit heavier, I would say, but not by much. And I've never actually felt wool stuff. I felt other types of period wool. And this feels comparable. So I'm very happy with it. It's period colors. And it's fairly cheap for wool. I think it's like $15 a yard now. When I bought it, it was $14 a yard, but you know, inflation. So I think it's $15 a yard now, which is really good for wool. And I'm quite happy with it. I use this stuff for everything. I mean, I use the same fabric for my cloak. I have at least 2 dresses from their wool stuff. I know there's other things too, but I just love this fabric. I'm going to put the camera down so you can see it a little bit better. And, I mean, whenever I do these petticoats, I like the long hems, or not the long hems, but the fairly deep hems. I think that it really sets the weight of the skirt so it pulls down appropriately. It's even all the way around. It's about 2 inches above my ankle, which is a good length for the 30s, especially for like a working petticoat. So my skirts usually go to ankle length. I can pull them up and have an extra 2 inches when I'm working, which is a really good thing. And you do want your petticoats to be an inch or 2 shorter than your actual skirt so they don't peek through at the end. So I am quite happy with that. That was lovely. I've already worn it, I think once, maybe twice, I don't remember. I've at a couple events, at least one event, if not 2. I don't remember what I wore that second event. I was only there for a couple hours. But I do know for sure I got worn for one event for several days. And it's still brand new condition. I mean, it doesn't even smell like smoke for some reason, which is weird. I don't know how I went to a reenactment and didn't smell like smoke at the end of it. And it was a cold event too. I was constantly around the fire. Usually, okay, with wool, if you have wool petticoats, you can have wool garments, and you obviously don't want to dry clean them after every use and after every event. That's ridiculous and a waste of money. Lay them outside if it's a nice sunny day, and it'll freshen it right up. It'll be great. So I know you've done that with this one, and it really doesn't smell. And there's a slight worn smell, but it's not even smoky. Interesting. Usually I come home from events and I can smell it like even in the car on the way home. And so yeah, usually all the stuff that doesn't get washed every day, which is most of my stuff except for my underpinnings, that gets put out on the clothesline, and yeah, that's how I keep them clean. And then of course spot clean if they're like dirty. But as far as smelling, like they smell weird, just put them outside. Wool works really great outside. If you have like spots on it, like dirt or mud, usually once the mud dries off, you can just brush it off. You really don't need to wash wool. Silk is kind of the same way.
And whenever it does get stained, wool doesn't really stain too much because it's kind of water resistant. Like water and liquids will just stay on top, so you won't get coffee stains or wine stains or any kind of liquid stains on it. It's very rare to get that on wool. Silk is another story, but for wool, it really isn't that bad. But I never really had to actually wash my wools. In fact, none of my wool dresses I've ever washed. I have freshened them up by putting them outside. And I think that's about it. I think one wool dress, I did get some mud on it, and I just kind of brushed it off. I need to soak the hem of my cloak, because my end of my cloak is really nasty right now. Oh yeah, we went to a very, very wet, miserable event several months ago actually, and I still haven't cleaned it. But that's just, if it's really, really nasty, I just soak it and then let it dry outside. No need for washing, no need for drying. But you really don't want to wash wool in the washing machine. It'll occasionally felt, it'll get seize up with the heat and the agitation, and you really don't want that for the wool, so let it be. It's usually pretty dirt and water resistant, and when it smells bad, you just set it outside for a little bit. And if absolutely need be, you can soak it and then just let it air dry. So that's kind of care and keeping of wools as far as what I do. But, I mean, it's just a petticoat. It's a very simple petticoat. There's nothing particularly special about it. Simple project. If you're into historical sewing and you don't know where to start, petticoats. Always start with your petticoats. And I say that because petticoats are so easy. They are literally just straight lines. They are all rectangles. If you mess them up, you really can't. I mean, if you have wavy, you can't keep your seam straight, it's okay. Nobody notices, and it's so big that you won't notice it when you feel it, when you wear it. Yeah, it's hard to screw up a petticoat. And if you cut it too long, you just shorten it. If you cut it too short, you can just add a piece up here, and no one will know the difference. Petticoats are really great places to start. If you're starting hand sewing, you want a quick and easy project that you can just hand sew. Petticoats are also really easy because, again, they're just straight lines. Back stitch or double running stitch the waistband, turn that under, hem that, buttonhole button, and you're good. And that's really all it is. And usually I don't like to do the super simple things on the channel because I keep feeling that it's not interesting. I think it's what I think. And then it's like, well, there are people who don't sew, or they don't do historic clothing and they would like to start in showing something very simple and not as complicated as a dress, especially the way I do dresses, which is, as y'all know, no patterning. It's like, oh, I drafted this myself, or I draped this myself. And that's not really user friendly, and it's how I do things, and I do have instructions on how to do those things, but that may be overwhelming to some people. But these super simple projects like this are a little bit more accessible, and I think that's a really good thing to showcase. Because I've been putting this project off for a while only because I knew I wanted to film it, because I like to film everything I do, so I always have content. But I kept feeling like it wasn't enough. And then finally I was like, no, it is enough because people need this type of content. So that's where I am with the petticoats. I probably won't do straight petticoats often, just because they're all basically the same. But I'm actually pretty good with petticoats. I have a lot of petticoats. I am moving and the house is up for sale, so I had to pack away a lot of my stuff. And I'm sitting here going, I own more petticoats than any reasonable person ever should. I mean, I have 2 upper wool petticoats, I have a lower wool petticoat, I have a embroidered under petticoat, and then every decade, and then I have 4 lower petticoats for the 1850s and 1860s, and then I have at least 2, maybe 2 corded petticoats, and then I have 2 over petticoats for the 30s and 40s, or just petticoats that go over the main skirt support, and then I have 3 for the 50s, and then, oh my gosh, my 60s petticoats, because I have the plain one, and I have the tucked one, and then I have the one that's laced all around, and then I have the one, my wrapper petticoat, which is fancy, like just in the front panel. And then I have, oh gosh, what else do I have? There's at least one more. Oh yeah, the wool over petticoat for the 60s that goes over the hoop. And then I have my elliptical 1860s petticoats, which I have 2 of those. And then I think I have 2 1870s petticoats and at least one 1880s one. And it isn't, like, it sounds like a lot, but when you see them together and you realize that it requires at least 3 yards per petticoat, it's like, that is a large amount of fabric. That is a huge amount of fabric just in petticoats. So that's always a lot of fun. I didn't really actually put all that together. Like, I had like a drawer for my 1830s petticoats. I have a drawer for my 1850s petticoats. I have a drawer for my 1860s ones. Like, I didn't see them all together until I packed them away. And then I'm like, wow, that's a lot of yardage. That is a lot of yardage. So I probably don't need any more petticoats. Want is a different matter, but need, I don't think I actually need any petticoats for quite a while until I start making some petticoats specifically for the 1820s because they're slightly gored. I've been using my 1830s petticoats. It's worked well enough because I do later 1820s. But if I delve a little bit earlier, I'm going to have to do petticoats for that. Which those would be different than what I typically do because they're not the straight rectangles, they're slightly gored. So that would be different. But this is probably going to be one of my last like petticoats. At least for myself. I mean, we'll do kids' clothes down the road and that'll be different. Like, we'll make the kids' petticoats. But as far as petticoats is probably the last one. So I'm glad I filmed it. Just even looking back on that, just going, oh yeah, it's probably my last one. I should probably, like, it's not like it's going to come up all the time. So glad I filmed that. Anyway, with all that being said, in my endless rambling, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment down below. I love hearing from people. I like responding to the comments and interacting with everybody. It's one of my favorite things. So please leave a comment if you liked the video. As always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here on Monday.